I'm excited to share the journey I've been on because I think it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. It started with a passion for health and fitness that began in high school and college, transformed into bodybuilding, to marathons, to yoga and meditation, until we got to where we are today. So I'm very excited to share all the curves and mountains and dips to bring me to where I am today.
We're here with Allison Jackson, and we're going to be discussing what happens when you lose that fitness feeling in general. It would be good for, I think, the listeners to get some background on how you got to this. I'm going to call it an inflection where everything changed. Let's start there.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. So I think I always had this ideal, this dream body that I thought I would attain through bodybuilding, which I did at certain points, right? When you get super lean and you're on stage, you're like, yeah, you want to look really good. But what I think people fail to realize is how do you feel during both the journey to get there and then while you're there? Because that really is just a point in time. And I feel like I've come to a point in my life where I'm really more concerned with how do I feel and how am I showing up for others versus how I look. Yeah, I would love to look great in a bikini, but I really think it's more about being mobile, being healthy, having good energy, and just that whole package.
So let's talk about those years, that time when you really were super into this version of fitness, where bodybuilding, what was life like on a regular basis when you're moving towards that? But what was the difference that you started feeling inside that started changing that?
Yes. In the beginning, I started bodybuilding in 2012 when I was in my mid 30s. So my children were young. They were probably elementary school aged at that time. And it was very rigorous. It was weight training, a lot of cardio. It was prepping my food, weighing and measuring it. A lot of times I was bringing food to parties. It's funny, I'll look at vacation pictures and I could tell, am I on prep or am I off season? Which it just became a lifestyle. And I did that for 10 years. And then I hit a point, and I don't know, call it midlife crisis, call it what you will. My son was a senior in high school and getting ready to graduate and go off to college. And I just had this like epiphany of what am I doing? I got to the point where I was out training for a show and I wasn't sleeping well. I was constantly cold. I was constantly hungry. And I did the show. My parents were like, wow, you really look miserable on stage. And my coaches, yeah, we really need you to lose more weight for that next show. And I was just like, I felt like just beaten down. And I was like, that is it. I am done. There is more to life than this. I don't feel good. I feel like there's a change in my life happening that my priority really needs to be my health. And this isn't healthy.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Something that outwardly may appear to be healthy feels just hard. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And it pained me that people were like, oh my God, you're so jacked. You look awesome. And we're just like aspiring. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't know what it feels like to be me and to not sleep and my hair was like thin falling out. And it was, yeah, you quote unquote look good, right?
Just one of the interesting things is I've been saying this for 20 years and exercising to look amazing always
Yeah.
fails. It never wins. I know there are going to be people listening to this go, oh, I don't know. Let me think about that. I've told all my clients, if you're exercising to look great, you're going to fail. It has to be internal. There has to be something different because oftentimes you'll, you actually probably you'll never be good enough for yourself. Did you ever experience that or other people, right? You talked about your coach and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You get caught up in that where you place, what medal you getting. If you're not, still a quote from Talladega Nights, if you're not first, you're last. And it is a little subjective, right? Do you know the coaches? Do the coaches know your trainer? You realize you start seeing how political it is. And that at the end of the day, to your point, you're not winning unless you feel good about you and what you're bringing to stage. And that's where I was chasing medals and trophies. And I'm like, what am I doing?
And to the general public, they want no part of that lifestyle. And I think for fitness professionals, we believe often as a general thing that we're going to get everyone super fit. They want to be at the peak of their fitness, this peak performance. When the reality is no, people are literally not looking for that. It's a huge
No.
misnomer for people.
Yes, yes, it is. When you start to tell people what you do and what your lifestyle is, that alcohol is not part of my life. Going out and staying out late was not part of my lifestyle. And they're like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to just my red wine and I want to have pizza."
We're like, this sounds ridiculously dumb and boring. And I've known a lot of people who have done bodybuilding and different things and I was just like, man, this is just, I was a collegiate athlete, so I understand the grind and the hustle. And it was never a healthy thing. It was for performance, right? If you're some exercising for performance is often actually really unhealthy for you.
Yeah,
But we try
yeah,
to pawn
because
this
it
off into
goes.
the gym. It doesn't match. It doesn't
Mm,
match.
no, it goes against everything else because it's no pain, no gain, right? Working through the pain and doing what you need to do to achieve that caliber of athleticism. It's just, it's not, it goes against it. You know, you use healthy in air quotes. It's like, it's just not healthy.
Healthy in air quotes. Like it brings like what is health? Right? What's our definition of health? And really, that lifestyle is an extreme lifestyle, right? Just to me, I always tell people and students that version of fitness is extreme, but so is being sedentary. They're almost the same thing. They exhibit the same symptomology, actually. So, with that, one person thinks they're better than the other. Like,
Yes. True.
"Oh, I'm doing all this stuff. You're doing nothing. Similar, actually.
Yeah, you're so right. You need that middle of the road where you're not like spending a lot of time on the couch, but you're also not, you know, training and working out and eating like it's your.
Yeah. So let's dive back in for you. So when you had this epiphany, what was the next parts of your life like? And how did other people respond?
Yeah, it was. I feel like it was almost like a midlife crisis because my personal brand and who I became was all about competing. Everybody knew me as the bodybuilder. Everybody knew me as always either dieting or working out or trying to help others. Came to redefine like who am I if I don't compete? What is my definition of health, and what are people going to look to me for? And it's funny, even now, it's been let's see, almost 5 or 6 years since that happened, and people are like, "Oh, we are you training? Like, what's going on?" It's still hard because 'cause I'm like, "No, I don't do that." Or, "Do you think maybe I'll go back to it?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. I think that's done. I think that chapter is closed." And I try to tell people, like, we're hitting middle age, things start to not move like you used to. You're sore, you're worried about your joints. A lot of people I know are on medications for high cholesterol, high blood pressure. So instead of training for the stage, I say I'm training for 80, right? I want to be mobile and injury free and able to lift grandkids over my head. And you go into a different chapter of life. Now, all of a sudden, I'm obsessed with pickleball, which I never thought I would ever be in my life. But I still lift, but I don't lift like I'm lifting to compete. I lift I want to look good. I want to look good in my 50s, my 60s, and my 70s. I think it's retraining people as well to know I'm still about wellness, it's still about health, but not to that extreme.
What did your kids think of the change?
My kids, it's funny when they were younger, they were like, "Oh," because you had to do like the self tanner and get all greased up, and they're like, what are you doing?" But it's funny now, they're starting to like my son now is a gym regular and starting wants to understand how do you build muscle and eating protein. And so I'm hoping the good parts have rubbed off on them, that they see that healthy eating and healthy movement is a lifestyle and one that you want to build into your life and what you do. So my husband's very much into weight training and eating. So I feel like as you get older, you're gonna realize the benefits of it so much more.
What about other people in life, friends, other coworkers, whatever? What was the thought process there for them?
Yeah, it's funny. They're thrilled because they're like, "Oh my gosh, you get to eat and drink like a normal human being." I was like that difficult high maintenance person who would go out and be like, "Will they have protein on the menu? Will they make it dry?" I'd be like asking for all the things. Yeah, I was that person. I'd go and I'd get not drinking. I need to be home by 9. So yeah, they like me a lot better now because I'm a lot more fun.
I've known many people like that in my life, being in the business for so long. And I think some people never get out of it. That's the reality too. And some people do. And you realize, man, what was happening for that? Especially you see the symptoms often outside, other people see it before you. And especially when it comes to socialization. because you almost self radicalize and self outcast yourself. And it's
Yes.
so unhealthy. That's unhealthy. Yeah.
It's so unhealthy. Like, I look back and I was like, oh, I almost look at myself like, who was that? How was I so brainwashed into
Yeah.
that lifestyle? And granted, there were good pieces of it, like obviously healthy eating, and I was in the best shape of my life. But then when it goes off kilter a little bit, you go a little too extreme. Here and there, I miss the competitiveness. I miss the working towards a goal, but I definitely don't miss the chicken and broccoli and bringing food to parties and eating in a corner and packing protein bars everywhere. Yeah, that I don't miss.
So, what was the hardest part of transitioning to your current approach? Like, where is it? Relapses, setbacks, all of it.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me is wanting to go at it like I'm still 30 years old, and full disclosure, I'm 51. So
You
it's
look
like my
incredible,
joint,
Allison, by the way.
you know, oh, thank you.
There's
My joints hurt, like things don't move like that. I'm like, it takes a lot more recovery than it used to. I'm trying to incorporate a lot more low impact walking. I love pickleball, yoga, Pilates. It's hard though. I want to go and I want to lift heavy like I used to, but it's know your boundaries. So I think that's the hardest part for me. And then just making sure I'm eating again, I'm eating more for like hormonal balance and trying to make sure that again, my body feels good for gut health. So it's trying to wrap my brain around that different what's your goal and target than what it used to be.
yeah. I think one of the when you talk about how you feel, this is, I think, something we as humans have we've especially current society, we struggle with understanding our own bodies. And whether it's from hunger cues, if we're actually hungry or not, how food makes us feel, how I feel after I work out, how I feel when I don't sleep well, it feels like we've lost that feeling in this sense. You're talking about losing the fitness feels almost losing the feeling of feeling things. You often
Yes.
have to teach people over what it is like to feel certain things. How do I feel? So obviously, if you're in something that's more extreme, honestly, you feel like shit most of the time. I know that when I was a collegiate athlete, there were maybe 5 or 6 days in 4 years that I felt great. Most of the time, I felt destroyed most of the time.
Mhm.
And that's a horrible feeling. Now, as soon as I got out of that, I did have trouble adjusting from it because you're so used to something, but my volume decreased dramatically at that point. But I think it's also indicative of a society that more feels like it should be better.
Yes. If this little bit is good, then 10 times that should be even better.
So we're losing that feeling, I think, is often something we're just almost like numb to. Like, how do I feel when I do this? Does this feel intuitive to me? Off? I think if you listen to your body, you just know. But
Yes.
why do you think we have a hard time like not listening to that?
I think to your point about going when you a lot of times you lock into a goal, you go into autopilot, right? It's you know what you have to do and you just do it. You don't think about how you feel or if you want to do it or not, you just do it. I also think we're in a time and place now where we're so distracted by
Mhm.
so many things, right? Social media and the news cycles and all the things that a lot of times we're on autopilot. It's just like, all right, I gotta make dinner, feed the kids, get it done. And we don't stop to your point to listen. Is this what I want? Am I hungry? How does my body feel today? Is a hard
Yeah.
workout what I need? So I do think mindfulness plays such a huge role now in your overall health, no matter what your workout looks like. If you're a runner, a weightlifter, a walker, or a yogi, really listening to your body, both when you're eating and when you're working out is huge, and being more intuitive and trusting what you need. Your body's going to tell you what you need.
Most definitely. I actually have a guy coming on in January or so, and he pitched me this interesting idea. This whole podcast is about different ideas that we don't talk about. And he was like, clearly it's just speculation on my part. He said, but I do think that maybe our busy lifestyle, this distractibility is actually somewhat decreasing our fight or flight response so that we don't really understand how we feel about situations and what's happening in our body. Almost think about it as if you're always distracted, right? You're blunting that sense of what is actually happening in my environment. So a good example is once like very mobile earbuds came to play. You didn't have I'm almost 47. You didn't have the big thing on the Walkman and all
Yes.
that. It was like the yellow Walkman. And I remember thinking, this feels wrong because what happens when you're outside and you're running and you can't understand what's happening in your environment? I've seen more people drop earbuds, fall off treadmills and gyms because they're not aware of what's happening. But on a large society scale, we may be losing this sensory perception of oneself because we're losing ourselves in other things that are distracting us all the time.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with that. And your ability to just listen to your own thoughts, right? So if you
Yes.
constantly have earbuds in, if there's constantly things going on around you, whether it's motion or sound, being able to just sit in stillness and hear yourself, like what you want, what you need, how you feel about something. That I think it's huge. I think we're losing so much of that, especially the children and the young adults
Children.
of today are really losing that. My kids perpetually have earbuds in.
Yeah. I actually, that's a great point because you think, especially kids, they're always distracted with stuff so that all of a sudden when bedtime happens, and what happens is you just suppress your thoughts the entire day. And then when there's no stimulation, all those thoughts come rushing into your head and you get anxious at that point.
Yes,
And there's a big link, I think, happening with this,
yes.
but I equate this to the gym too. Like when I go to gym and I see people just constantly locked in and there's music and stuff's great. It's fine. And there's a lot of great data to indicate the positives of music and things. But I always thought the turn happened when we went from an iPod to a smartphone because the iPod, you couldn't check anything. You could just listen to, you just scroll to a different song.
Mhm.
Now, when you can check your email, text message, people are not generally strong enough to withstand the bombardment of notifications.
No.
So you see gyms having problems with people just sitting on a bench for 10 minutes, scrolling, right? You've seen this, right?
Resting in between their sets.
And it's like becoming a problem. It's like you're not even aware of your environment, of what's going on. So back to the feeling piece, it's deadening this feeling portion, which is really important for survival in the past. And now,
Yes.
how does my body feel? Maybe this fitness feeling is not what I want, this extreme version of it.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so true. And it's so true about the sleep because you're right. Your thoughts are occupied almost all day until the nighttime when it's like, all right, now it's the time to think about the past and the future and all the things I didn't think about today, right?
I think a lot of people are afraid of their thoughts. I really do. They
I'd agree with
fear
that.
their thoughts because their thoughts, your brain is a powerful machine and it's the most complicated thing maybe in the universe, man. It's incredible.
Mhm.
And it will bring a lot of things into your consciousness on a regular basis,
Yes.
even stuff you
Yes.
don't
That's why
want to think about. Like,
yeah, and I'm a huge proponent. I always am preaching about meditation, and if you don't wanna sit and meditate, then journal, just free write,
yeah,
just whatever comes to your brain, put it out there, or breath work, just breathing it out. But
yeah,
yeah, being able to acknowledge your thoughts and let them go, it's huge.
yeah. And this has a huge tie into fitness. And so I think, like, for your story, how did this start progressing for you? So you went from this very, hey, we're locked into this extreme bodybuilding fitness life. Was it very gradual or was it something more like some people just cut?
I think it was half and half, right? So in 2020, I was still training, but I went through my yoga certification in the midst of a global pandemic, which
Yeah.
made everyone take a step. It's like, all right, nobody's competing. We can't go out. That kind of made me start to question, am I being a good friend to myself? How hard am I pushing myself for what purpose? And then I said everything happened with kind of my son, my firstborn going off to college. I think that is when I started to look more inward and started to really embrace spirituality, start to embrace mindfulness, and really try to be more intuitive and listen to myself. Because I felt like for so long I was listening to everybody else and what everybody else wanted, right? You got to listen to the trainers and the judges and the coaches. And I was like, you know what? I can do this for myself without having so many voices come in. And I just read and take stuff in.
Yeah.
But to your point, I've been really just sitting in much more of being intentional about what do I want? What do I need right now? Some weeks it's lifting heavy and some weeks it's just walking and doing yoga and having grace with yourself, right? That's okay. That there's nothing saying that's right or wrong. So I think it was an evolution and I still continue to evolve.
Was in the beginning parts of it, was it difficult to leave that behind, what you were doing?
So hard because I felt very it almost became addictive, right? Tracking my food, tracking my workouts, tracking my PRs. It was like a dopamine hit, right? It was like, what's it for if I'm not doing those things? So it was really hard. It was really hard to let those go. And every once in a while, I'll start tracking, and it's almost like a comfort thing. Look,
Yes.
I can't control much. I can control this. But in it, it was gradual. And now I'm like, I don't track any of my lifts. I don't track any of my workouts now. I just free spirit. Just whatever comes.
What was that first time like in the gym when you didn't lift heavy or you were like not doing the program you were doing? What was that like?
It felt pointless. I was like, "What am I even doing here?
What the hell am I doing?
The point? What is the point?" But I've come to accept it, that I don't have to lift as or squat as heavy as possible and do super heavy lifts to make progress. What's helped is my joints are really hurt. Now that at this point in my life, I wake up and it's just hard to grip dumbbells or hard to grip weights. So it's okay, work around that. What can you do that's gonna work for you?
Yeah, I have that joint issue too, but it happens for me primarily like when it gets cold. Man, my
Okay.
knees are shot when it's cold. I'm like, what is happening to me? I'm like, why am I so stiff, man?
So true. I wake up after pickleball, my hips hurt, my ankles hurt. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a 70-year-old." It's
This morning I woke up, I had this random pain in my hip. I was like, what just happened to me? And you get these like sleeping wrong injuries. You're like, oh
that
no, I didn't turn over the right way. Oh no, this is how it begins.
so true. I was like, I have a whole appreciation for all my parents' aches and pains.
It's like, man, I'm like, this is not great. I'm like, but I listen to that though. I think about it when it's just really interesting for that. I imagine your challenge was look much like mine when I was done being a collegiate athlete. I went into the general population. I
Yeah.
was now like everyone else. And it was weird for me because I was always around super high performing people. Everyone looked like they were cut out of a magazine. And all of us did. It was just like, wow. And you get into the general public, this is definitely not what I see. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I'm like, I will not be mediocre. Right?
Which is why I think we need to have more realistic exercise recommendations for
Yes.
all humans because people are living very busy lives and have a lot of responsibilities. And depending on what time in life you're at, there's only so much you can give to different things. And I think one of the hardest things for people, I think, is they feel like this fitness thing just got to go. You have to deeply get into it to make a difference, like deeply invest into it all this time. It's just not true. You know?
No. No. It's absolutely not true. And I feel like when you do that is when you hurt yourself.
Yeah, most definitely.
Especially if you're just starting out, you like haven't been doing anything and you go full tilt.
Yeah.
You know, my brother did that with CrossFit. He's like, "You're doing CrossFit. I'm gonna lose all this weight." And I'm like, "Please be careful."
It's like whenever a client comes to me and they say, I want to work out 5 days a week, I say, absolutely not. And they're stunned by that. Well, is this your profession? I said, this is not about money for this. You will not make it. And take it, I've done this before. I have done this. You are not ready for this. I promise you. Like, you will not feel good most of the week.
Yes. Yes. It's like saying, "Oh, take up running. I'm gonna do a marathon." It's like you've never run
Yeah.
before. It's let's just start slow.
Yeah. It's like one day, let's start a little bit, slowly move up for that.
Yes. But that was a struggle too, because to your point, I was used to working out every day. So my if I'm not working out, what is that? That means that's not what's the point? Like I need but to that point, I just try to move every day. It doesn't have
Yeah.
necessarily have to be a workout, but just some type of movement I think is important.
Yeah. Fitness can be very addictive to people when they're in it,
Mm.
and it eats up people's lives. And I teach at several colleges too, and I teach a weight training two class, and everybody's in there's, a lot of guys. And of course, surprise, what they want to do, lift heavy all the time. So I sit and talk to them about it. I'm like, how do you spend 3 hours at the gym? I was like, I know how. You have nothing going on in your life, right? Right? You don't have a family, you don't have a significant other, you don't have any hobbies outside of this. I said, you know what? I want to instill into you that this will not be your life for very much longer, by the way. You need to start training for the reality of living and that you may get a half an hour here and there. This is not realistic what you're doing. And getting big will get very old over time.
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
old over time.
It's true. It's a lot of dedication and work. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you want something sustainable that'll last your life, not just a point in time.
And another interesting thing too is I think we've seen this anecdotally is that quite a bit of your bodybuilding population is not a long-lived population. Longevity is not a bodybuilding is not a longevity lifestyle at all. It's
No.
actually a life-shortening lifestyle for a lot of people, actually.
Yes. 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 Especially the ones that are not natural.
Exactly. There's a lot of
I would agree with
cost.
that.
There's a cost to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a gazillion documentaries out there now about that and different things, coronary artery disease. And you think to yourself, these
Yeah.
people are like the peak of this thing. But that's not true, though. It's
No.
not true.
No, no, it's like it is. It's so funny. It's almost like smoke and mirrors because they
Yeah.
put up this front that, gosh, they have these incredible bodies and physiques, but
Right.
then behind it is everything's falling apart because they're
Yeah.
doing things to themselves that just is not long term going to be healthy.
Most definitely. I have some clients who are like very health focused, like health obsessed almost. They'd admit this. I'm not saying
Mhm.
anything they wouldn't say, but I always tell them, honestly, I learned this lesson a long time ago. You can be as fit as you want, eat as well as you can eat. But if you have really poor relationships, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If you are socially, emotionally very stunted and you are not good at nurturing and building relationships, that other stuff is almost irrelevant. It's literally almost
Mhm.
irrelevant to be fit.
It's true. It's true. And I would even say your relationship with yourself, because a lot of
Yeah.
times you I felt like I did that to myself, right? I like kept pushing myself, like I was never good enough. And it's like taking a step back and being like, no, you know what you're doing, however much or little you work out and how you eat, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'd be good to I always look at the exercise recommendations guidelines and that this needs to be changed towards realistic exercise recommendations
Yes.
and guidelines and just fitting it around. It's not getting to people to run a marathons to do more than they were doing and see where
Yes.
it goes from there and to see how you feel and then making decisions like, hey, I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to probably do some stuff never do. Probably not going to feel that great, but I know that. I understand and
Right.
just go, I'm, I try to do as best I can most of the time. And then several times I literally phone it in for real on purpose
Yeah.
because I just
Yeah.
want to have a good time. I just want to have a great,
Yes.
I think we lose a lot of joy in fitness. I'm like, there's a lot
Yes.
of joy lost in entering into punishment based
Mhm.
fitness.
Yeah.
No one wants
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I even as we come up on the holidays, I'll remember trying to figure out how am I gonna eat for the holidays? To
Yeah.
your point, people lose out on the joy instead of worrying about the memories you're creating and the fun you're having and the people you're with, we get so caught up in the food. And I feel like they take the holidays, it's 3 weeks of eating, and it's no, it's really 2 days that you celebrate or maybe a party here or there, but it's not
Yeah.
it's not like an eating marathon. Yeah.
No, no, not that at all. And I think that's what hurts people too, is they feel like if I get into this fitness thing and health and well-being, it's a lot like anything that feels polarizing. It's just, am I gonna have to change everything about my life to do this? Yeah, am I gonna be unrecognizable to my friends and family? What's a concern for people?
Yeah, yeah, but I think it's all give and take. Like to your point about going to Vegas, right? You're
Yeah,
gonna you're gonna bust your butt the couple weeks leading up to it. You're gonna have fun while you're there. You're gonna come back, and everything is gonna go back to normal, back to your healthy routine, whatever that may be. But it's like a roller coaster ride. You can't be completely disciplined every minute of every
yeah.
day forever.
It's no
It's
fun.
not
That's
fun.
boring. Honestly, it's boring. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't seem exciting. And actually, when I was an athlete, I felt that. I was very the thing that helped me as I was getting my kinesiology degree and I was learning about this at the same time I was competing. And I always had a very psychology based slant. And I would hear my professors talk, and then I'd be out there in practice and I'd be like, this doesn't make sense to me. And I always think that. But
Yeah.
I was also like 18 to 22 and I did not have the strength to question my coach or other people in my life and go, I learned this and this doesn't make sense to me. I shouldn't feel horrible 90% of the time when I'm
Right.
out here. What about we change this? I had
Yeah.
no strength mentally to do that. I was subordinate to the situation and
Right.
I was extremely young. But I want people to question that now and be like, listen, you see whatever extreme thing out there fitness wise, honestly, run from it. Seriously.
Mhm.
Like, just
Yes.
run from it,
Yes.
man. It's not going to serve you. It really isn't.
No. Well, those all or nothing approaches are not sustainable, typically not healthy. It's
Yeah.
you have give and take and balance and doing everyone's different, right? So doing what works best for you, I think is most important.
Right. So where do we stand today? What is Allison like at this moment in time with all of this?
With all of this, so I feel like I have a much healthier approach both to nutrition as well as workouts. I'm not like constantly, it used to be, had to be first thing in the morning, hour and a half. I wake up, I see how I feel. If I'm a little bit achy and sore, it might be a yoga day. If I have a lot of energy, it might be a lifting and pickleball day. And then nutrition wise, trying to prioritize the protein and fiber, healthy carbs, and I will be having Christmas cookies and indulging. Violence. I might have a glass of wine on the weekend, I might not, but I feel like alcohol definitely does not make me sleep well, and
Yeah,
I'm
of
prioritizing
course.
sleep and rest for
Good.
sure.
Good.
So that's definitely something new that I'm enjoying for sure.
Yeah. The sleep part is I ran a club for 10 years and all of my training staffs, they had the worst sleeping habits of anybody I've ever seen. We're talking 3, 4 hours a night, trainers, and then would
Oh,
tell their clients. And I said, "We guys, this is crazy." But this was also when sleep was just the wild thing about sleep is every organism does it. This is hundreds of thousands of years. And only in the last 20, 25 years, we've been like, maybe we should do this. Like,
sleep is finally trending.
how crazy is that? That only recently in the scope of human existence have we taken sleep seriously. It's mind blowing to me.
Wild.
Right. Like, true, right?
Yeah. I swear that badge of honor. I got 4 hours. I got to the gym at 4 AM, was like,
I read an article years ago, maybe in the 2010s, and it was this article on Yahoo about how all these CEOs like were so excited that they barely slept. And this is a badge of honor. And I just couldn't, and I was online to this because I had finished my doctorate, I had all this education. I knew about all this already. I was like, this has to change. We should not be looking up to these
yeah,
people at all
no.
for this. And now we've come to almost a full circle where we are prioritizing sleep, man. You better get sleep because it's so important.
Yes.
When
I love
anybody
it.
who has kids knows how important this is. Like, your kid doesn't sleep, it's bad.
It's it's bad.
It's
They
like
are a
really
wreck.
bad. That next day is rough city, man.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm glad sleep is trending. It's back
Yeah, it should
back to
continue
being
to trend.
popular.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
like, we're bringing sleep back? Like, what are you talking about? It's never left. Like, you should have been here. But
I know.
what do you think? So, as we finish this up, where would you like to see things go on a large scale after going through this experience and still experiencing it now?
Yeah. So I would just love to see, and I feel like it's shifting this way, right? Just wellness and well-being being a priority, not only for individuals, but for organizations too, right? Like prioritizing mental health and physical health, realizing the ROI for employees out in the world. When companies prioritize the wellness of their employees, that is a really return investment. But I would love to also see people stop looking for the quick fix. I know everybody is like on Ozempic and a Wegovy. That's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you look at health trends like diet and exercise programs, it's look at what is going to be sustainable and what's going to give you balance and make you feel good at the end of the day. I think that's most important.
I think the good thing is, I think hope we are moving towards a more well-being in process in transit-based society. At least there's more information and more awareness
Yeah.
of it, certainly. And I think I had a podcast about this. I think as we age, you're in your early 50s, I'm in my late 40s, that we're looking at aging as a very different thing than we used to, as a time to thrive and grow. And all in full transparency, you're 51, right? You said
Yep.
because I'm in your age range, 4 years or two, give or
You're
take.
coming. You're coming
I'm
along.
coming. I'm coming. I'm gonna be on board. I'm coming to be on board. But there was no humans that looked like Allison Jackson like this back in the day.
Thank you.
You have to admit
It's
this yourself.
true. It's true.
No
It's like the
one looked
Golden
like
Girls.
you for other people back then.
Right. The Golden Girls were in their 50s. I thought they were in their
Incredible.
70s.
Exactly, right? You're like, B. Arthur was 50? Like, I'm like, no.
It's true. And you seriously look like you're in your 30s. I would never have guessed you're
Thank you.
47. See,
Yeah.
see, we're aging in reverse.
We're aging, we're Benjamin buttoning this whole thing here. But I think there's more of us now. There's more people who, when you say your age, just double take that thing.
Yeah.
And that is that's a hope. And then you didn't have to kill yourself for this either, by the way. For that, you have a lot less stress in your life, move more often, try to eat better, whatever that means for you. And also just stress is a huge part. Decrease your stress, minimize as much of your stress, whole thing. I don't have a gray hair on my head. Seriously, not one.
Jealous.
I keep it very low level stress regularly. I know what it does to you, all the inflammation stuff.
Yes.
But I think the future is trending towards you, like how you look, how you feel. And the more people that see people that they go, there's hope.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people today who are in their 50s do not want to be, there's no disrespect. They don't want to be their grandma. They don't want to be grandpa who did nothing, just basically took naps on the couch, did nothing, retired. Even retirement's in question for a lot of people now.
Yeah.
So there's hope. All I'm saying is there's hope
Yes.
out there. So
We're giving everyone hope.
fine. We're really trying, but it is a process. It is definitely a process. It's up
Definitely
and
the
down. It's
process.
up and down. So Allison, thank you so much for coming on. And please let everyone know, I have it in the show notes, how they can connect with your journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I loved chatting with you. You could connect with me at AllisonJacksonFitness.com or visit me on LinkedIn. That's where I usually hang out.
Awesome. Allison, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Darian. Talk to you soon.